Hello everybody, welcome back to Off Meta Musings and another Age of Sigmar Warcry video, where today we're going to be talking about how to use your Warhammer Underworlds fighters in Warcry. They're known as Bladeborn, and originally the rules for them were released back in a White Dwarf, but they've been added officially into the errata and the FAQ documentation now, so I thought I'd take the time to update my original video and tell you everything that you need to know about getting the most out of your Warhammer Underworlds fighters. Okay, so if you're new to the concept, effectively what the rules for Bladeborn give you is a way to use your Warhammer Underworlds warbands in Warcry. Now, I've got a couple of examples here. We've got the Starblood Stalkers, Xandire's Truth Seekers. They were recently re-released in the Crypt of Blood Warcry starter set. But whichever ones you have, these rules that I'm going to go through will enable you to use them in your warbands as to properly list build with them. Not all Warhammer Underworlds warbands have Warcry rules, but for the ones that do, normally you will be able to find their rules either in White Dwarf or in the 2021 Tome of Champions. But if you don't have access to either of those publications, you can go and you can check out warcry.net. It's a fantastic resource for anyone who's playing Warcry. I'll put a link to it in the description down below. And effectively, it has all of the rules for every current legal fighter in the game, including all of the legal Bladeborn. It has a directory of all of the actual rules of the game. It's got a directory of all of the narrative rules, all of the White Dwarf publications, everything. So I fully encourage people to go and check it out. It's got a warband builder that's been built in now, and it does validation for you. So yeah, I find it's an invaluable resource when building your warbands, when you need to look up the rules and anything really associated with Warcry during your games. Going on to the rules for Bladeborn themselves. Effectively, every Bladeborn fighter, so every Warhammer Underworlds warband with Warcry rules, all of those fighters belongs to a specific Grand Alliance. So that fighter's Grand Alliance will tell you which warbands you can ally in your Bladeborn for that faction. So for example, if we take Prince Duval here, Prince Duval is part of the Crimson Court. Recently, again, re-released in the Crypt of Blood starter set for Warcry, if you manage to pick up that. He's part of Grand Alliance Death, because of course the Crimson Court are a team full of vampires. So naturally he would be able to go with all of the other undead factions within Warcry. So the Nighthaunt, the Ossiarch Bone Reapers, the Soulblight Gravelords themselves, and the Flesh Eater Courts. Now, what you are allowed to do is you can have any Bladeborn fighter in your warband if both your warband rune mark and your faction rune mark are the same. So you can see here with Prince Duval, he's part of the Soulblight Gravelord faction, and he has that faction rune mark. So any of him or his Crimson Court can be used in any Soulblight Gravelord list that you would be writing. On top of that, you can use any Bladeborn fighter with the hero rune mark as an ally, if that hero shares the same Grand Alliance as the faction that you're playing. So for example here, let's use Prince Duval again. Let's say I was playing Nighthaunt. Nighthaunt is part of Grand Alliance Death, so I could ally in Prince Duval as one of my two allies. Just as a reminder, when building your warbands in Warcry, you're allowed up to 2 out-of-faction allies during your list building. So Bladeborn, in effect, just follows all of the usual rules for allies if you wanted to take just a hero of that particular Underworld's warband. Additionally, if you do that, and you take the hero of your Bladeborn team, what you're allowed to do is take other members of the same team as allies, but they don't take up any additional ally slots. So going back to the Crimson Court as another example, let's say I'm playing Nighthaunt, and I bring in Prince Duval as my ally because he's a hero choice. I can bring in the other 3 members of his team as allies, even though I only normally have 2 ally slots. So in effect, the other members of his team don't take up anything as long as I have the hero there. Now, you do have to pay the points values for those fighters as normal. It's just they don't take up any of your additional slots that they would normally take. Breaking this down a little bit, this is an example of the first rule. I've got a very quick, very simple list here. I've got a Soulblight Gravelord list with a Necromancer and a bunch of Graveguard, and I've added in the Crimson Court. Because they all share the Soulblight Gravelord faction, they're all valid fighters to be able to use in your list building when you're building for that faction. I've got an Ossiarch Bone Reaper list. It's primarily built around a Mortizan Bone Shaper and a bunch of Mortek Guard, and what we're doing here is we're allying in Prince Duval and taking the rest of the Crimson Court as additional allies without them taking up the additional slots. But as I've said before, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be paying the points for them as normal. The rules that I've covered so far, they basically cover any open play or match play game that you would be playing. There are some additional rules if you wanted to use Bladeborn in your narrative games. Maybe you're running a campaign or a club league, something like that. This is what you need to do in order to use those. Effectively, you add them as we've just talked about. You can add Bladeborn with the hero remark as an ally if you manage to achieve the secure a powerful ally quest. Of course, you need to spend the glory as you would do normally. And similarly to match play and open play, if you add the hero, you can add any other Bladeborn fighters in that warband without taking up any additional ally slots. You still need to spend the glory to do so, and you need to pay for them just like any other fighter, but that mechanic allows you to take them as well. One thing to note is that you can't take multiples of the same Bladeborn fighter. They are in effect unique, so you're not able to double up on them. And finally, you're not going to make injury rolls for those fighters. You're not going to make renown rolls for those fighters, so they're not going to be enhancing themselves throughout your campaign. They're effectively static and they stay as they are. They can't gain renown and they can't have any artifacts of power. But if you are going to take a Bladeborn hero as your leader, they are going to get one heroic trait, which they're going to get automatically at the beginning of the campaign anyway. Okay, so that's it. That's everything you need to know about Bladeborn, how to use them in your warbands, how to list build with them in narrative play, open play, and match play. I hope that was something that was useful for you. We get a lot of questions from new players, especially talking about how to use their Underworlds warbands and how to list build with them. So hopefully that shed a little bit of light on what you're going to be doing. As always, if you like what you're watching, please don't forget to like and subscribe. And let me know. Let me know any Bladeborn fighters that you've been using recently in your games. Any interesting combos that you might have using your Underworlds warbands, and any interesting synergies that they might have that you found while you're playing. But yeah, that's it. That's it from me for today. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time.